The movie begins with a woman named Yoon Ji-woo celebrating her birthday today. Before leaving for school, Ji-woo took the time to exercise while listening to music in her room. On the way to school, she was followed by a police officer to ask about her father, a criminal and drug dealer. Since her father's case was revealed, Ji-woo was ostracized by her friends and class. Even her desk was filled with scribbles full of insults to her. Today, she was summoned to the principal's office because she would be dismissed from school. According to the principal, many parents object to the daughter of criminals and drug dealers attending the same school as their children. Upon returning to class, Ji-woo found a pile of trash lying on her desk. Feeling fed up, she finally attacks her friends and causes a fight. She then handed a name bet to one of her teachers, then left the school in a rage. Arriving in front of the house, Ji-woo saw a police car still waiting for her. She attacked the car, so she was chased by the police. Ji-woo continued to run to the beach to avoid the police chase. Arriving there, she sat down, remembering the times with her father. Since childhood, she was raised with love by her father, but she still did not think her father was a criminal. When Ji-woo came home at night, it turned out that the police who had been chasing her was still waiting for her in front of her house. But she kept walking into the house, ignoring the police presence. On the other hand, her father, Yoon Dong-hoon, is trying to call her using a payphone. At first, she ignored the call, but eventually, she picked up. Her father asked her how she was doing and wished her a happy birthday. But because she was very angry, Ji-woo told her father that she was fed up with living like this and blamed her father for all the suffering in her life. Hearing this, her father then promised he would soon solve his problem. However, Ji-woo was already disappointed. She no longer wanted to wait for her father and thought he was dead. Arriving in the car, Dong-hoon turns on his cell phone, which he has not used for a long time. Then he reads a message from Ji-woo complaining about her miserable life. He was determined to head home to see her without a second thought. Arriving there, Dong-hoon attacked the police guard in front of his house until he was unconscious. Then he rushed into the house. When he tries to unlock the door, Ji-woo wakes up when she hears a noise coming from the door. She rushed towards the door to find out what was going on. Looking outside through the peephole, Ji-woo found her father shot, and on the other side was a mysterious man walking towards the exit. Seeing this, she opened the door. Still, she couldn't because, apparently, her father tried to hold the door, so she couldn't get out because he was worried for her safety. Soon after, Dong-hoon apologized to Ji-woo for making her life miserable before he finally died. She tried to open the door and saw that her father was lying stiff and covered in blood. She burst into tears while hugging her father's body. The next day, a group of people in black suits, led by a man named Choi Moo-jin, came to the funeral home. They are the biggest gangster in the city. Apparently, Moo-jin, who was Dong-hoon's best friend, came to pay his last respects. Before they left, Ji-woo had asked him about the murder of her father, but he only answered that her father was his best friend, who he could trust the most. Before her father's body was cremated, she saw her father's body for the last time while remembering the happy times with her father. She didn't understand why her father was suddenly doing such a dangerous job. After that, Ji-woo visits the police station to inquire about her father's murder case progress. Unexpectedly, the case of her father's murder was closed because there were no witnesses or evidence. Hearing this, she got angry and showed the CCTV camera footage at the crime scene. But the police officer scolded her and blamed her father for being a fugitive criminal. That night, Moo-jin's men report to him that Ji-woo came to see him. Hearing this, he let her in. While inside his headquarters, she sees people busy counting money and packing drugs. After entering the room, she gave Moo-jin's CCTV camera footage. She asks him to find her father's killer as she plans to kill that person with her own hands. Then he stands up and hands Ji-woo the knife, telling her to stab him. Unfortunately, she doesn't dare to hurt or kill him. Therefore, Moo-jin says he doesn't want to help her and instead kicks her out. Arriving at the house, Ji-woo suddenly heard a knock on the door. While peeking through the hole in the door, she saw that there was someone in a black coat she had seen on the night of her father's murder. Feeling scared, she tried to hide under the blanket until he left. But finally, Ji-woo ventured to go after him to avenge his father. She continued to chase him with the golf club, but sadly he had disappeared. Apparently, Ji-woo didn't give up. She kept looking for her father's killer by pasting a brochure with CCTV images on the wall. The poster reads, "If anyone finds out information about the person in the picture, then she will give a reward of 5 million won." The next day, heading somewhere, Moo-jin accidentally saw a poster pasted on a wall and decided to do something. Shortly after, Ji-woo gets a call from a man who claims he has information about her father's killer. Hearing this, she left with a penknife and met the mysterious caller. Arriving at the meeting place, it turns out the caller is just a city thug and his gang who want to rob her money. They attack her and lock her in the trunk of the car. While in the trunk, she heard the sound of a car stopping. Ji-woo tried to open the trunk while attacking the people outside. Unexpectedly, it turned out that the person who stopped the car was Moo-jin, while the thugs had been beaten by his men. After that, Moo-jin tells Ji-woo to stop looking for her father's killer and continue her life well. Feeling guilty for her late father, she refuses his request. Besides that, she will not allow the police to close the murder case of her father just like that. Seeing her determination, he says if she wants revenge, she must first learn how to kill people. After that, Moo-jin took Ji-woo to a place close to the sea and the harbor, which was the training ground for the fighters from his organization. He tells her that all of his men will be trained there before being hired by him. Moo-jin then gave orders to his men who were there to train Ji-woo. However, all of Moo-jin's men were surprised because this was the first time a woman wanted to train as a fighter with them. The next day, a man named Jun Tae-ju, who is Moo-jin's right-hand man, states that he disagrees with his boss's decision to accept Ji-woo's presence in their organization. But Moo-jin says that he will let her avenge her father. At the training ground, Ji-woo is led into a room by a man named Tho Gong-jae, who tells him that from now on, she has to wash and clean the training ground. However, if they recognize her abilities, she would be transferred to another place. At the same time, some of Moo-jin's men treated Ji-woo very severely. Even she got abused by one of them until a fight broke out. Luckily, the other men stopped them. Since she didn't want to waste time, Ji-woo trained alone every night. Not long after, Moo-jin comes to see her. He asks if she still intends to survive, and she replies that she will do anything to become stronger. Hearing her statement, Moo-jin taught her some survival tips and told her all the weak points in the human body. He trains Ji-woo in some ways of fighting, and almost every day, he watches her train and gets stronger. Long story short, the day has come to determine the strongest gangster member, and the winner will be transferred to another place and can work for Moo-jin. Whoever can withstand the opponent's attack to the end, then that person will be declared the winner. While in the middle of the fight, it looks like Gong-jae is still holding on, but apparently, Ji-woo can still survive and get up. Seeing this, Gong-jae attacked her, but in the end, the fight was won by Ji-woo, while he was rendered unconscious by her. After he wakes up, Gong-jae is already in his room, while his friend is laughing at him while watching a replay of his fight video earlier. Feeling humiliated by Ji-woo for beating him, Gong-jae invites them to do something to her. On the other hand, Ji-woo's drinking water had been drugged by someone until she felt dizzy. Soon after, one of Gong-jae's friends is still trying to stop Gong-jae and his friend from going to her room. When they are about to run their action, luckily, Ji-woo is still a little conscious and can face them. Hearing the commotion, Tae-ju came to Ji-woo's room to stop them. After that, he brings Gong-jae to Moo-jin and tells him Gong-jae plans to harm Ji-woo. Hearing this, Moo-jin felt disappointed with Gong-jae and took his sword and drew it in front of Gong-jae. Being threatened like that, Gong-jae kneels in apology. However, Moo-jin is already disappointed in him. After that, Moo-jin approached him and slashed the tip of his sword into his face to signify punishment. In the room, Ji-woo is crying while collecting the ashes of her father's shattered body. Shortly after, Tae-ju comes to see her at the training ground, where he blames her for beating Gong-jae. Tae-ju argues that she and her father don't fit into the criminal underworld and advises her to quit, but she refuses. Ji-woo is then taken to a tavern to meet with Moo-jin. He explains that the tavern is her father's favorite place. Besides, he gives her a new identity. From now on, she will live with the name Oh Hae-jin because the woman named Ji-woo was killed by Gong-jae. Moo-jin then gives her the gun she found when her father died. He informs her that her father's killer was a cop. Therefore, he enters Hae-jin into the police academy to find out who killed her father. As time passed, Hae-jin continued to train hard and became more proficient in using various weapons. She was ready to avenge him. Even the organization's tattoo was engraved on her chest. Hae-jin has officially joined the Moo-jin criminal organization and cannot betray or reveal her identity. 3 years later, Hae-jin finally enters the police academy and joins the crime unit. That day, she is assigned to pursue a murder suspect who has been a fugitive for a long time. She then told her friend to call for help while she entered the club. Inside the club, the man is dealing drugs with a male dealer. Meanwhile, Hae-jin checks the rooms one by one. She finds a woman dying from an overdose and helps her. After that, she found a room where several men were conducting drug transactions. Without thinking, she went straight in, and a fight broke out. Shortly after the police car arrived, Hae-jin was seen handcuffing the suspect. Meanwhile, a man named Jeon Pil-do is still angry with her because she is considered to have thwarted his plans that have been drawn up for 6 months. Apparently, the man was a police officer who came from the drug unit and was undercover to catch the suspect. In the end, they got into a fight over the suspect. Finally, Hae-jin was called by the captain and allowed Pil-do to take the suspect. Pil-do angrily said that he would never see her again. Elsewhere, a gang fight occurs, and Moo-jin is seen walking leisurely in the middle of the fight. Apparently, he was about to catch a man who was his work partner because the man was caught betraying his organization by selling drugs to other people. The man then begs Moo-jin for mercy, but Moo-jin brutally kills him. The next day, Hae-jin was seen heading to the Incheon police headquarters. She plans to volunteer to move to the drug unit and meets a man who is the head of the drug unit named Captain Cha Gi-ho. When she saw his face, Hae-jin remembered her father's killer. After Captain Cha saw her profile and skills, he finally accepted her to join his unit, and starting next week, she will join his team. In the evening, Hae-jin goes to Moo-jin to tell her that she has been accepted into the drug unit at the police. She mentioned her suspicions about Captain Cha, who once came to her house wearing the same jacket worn by her father's killer. After that, Moo-jin told the story of when Hae-jin's father saved him first. At that time, there was a fight between gangsters until his gangster was cornered. His men had left him, but her father stayed with him. They had captured the moment in a photo, then Moo-jin displayed the photo on his desk. He gives her father's knife and tells Hae-jin to kill her father's killer using the knife. Meanwhile, at the police station, a man named Chong-ho is being interrogated. The police asked him to name his friends and his boss, but instead, he diverted the question by providing other information about a man named Mango who had made a new type of drug in the form of candy. While returning to his room, Pil-do accidentally runs into Hae-jin, who is about to enter the drug unit, where she tells him that she has joined the drug unit. Knowing this, he protests Captain Cha and says he doesn't need a woman on his team because it will only become a burden. Captain Cha tries to calm him down by saying that Hae-jin might only last a month. Hearing why his captain accepted Hae-jin, Pil-do reluctantly accepts her presence in the drug unit. At the same time, Captain Cha is investigating the case of a man who died, ending his life in a car. The man was killed by Moo-jin using poison gas, but he makes the case seem like he ended his own life. Elsewhere, Tae-ju talks to Moo-jin that he still doubts Hae-jin's loyalty, but Moo-jin says he trusts her decision and intends to take revenge. Besides that, she can be used as an organizational weapon. On the other hand, Pil-do and the team have started to move to find the whereabouts of a drug dealer named Mango, but he instead orders Hae-jin to carry out the mission herself. Annoyed, Hae-jin entered the place, but when she showed her ID card, the man suddenly attacked her until a fight broke out. Apparently, Pil-do purposely told Hae-jin to enter to be used as bait so he could catch Mango when he tried to escape from his hiding place. But because he didn't come out, Pil-do went in to check on Hae-jin. Arriving at the venue, Pil-do is stunned to see the gangsters lying unconscious on the floor. Then, he walks into the room and finds Hae-jin casually catching a man named Mango. Pil-do didn't even think she could catch Mango and incapacitate his men alone. After that, Mango asks them about the arrest warrant, but Pil-do just answers it with a laugh. Hae-jin and Pil-do then rush to find the drugs that were in there. The whole room was searched, but they didn't find any drugs until Hae-jin became suspicious of the bartender, who looked very nervous. She tried to check the wine bottle behind the bartender and found drugs in the bottle. Mango was eventually arrested for being proven to have drugs. When going home, Pil-do seems very concerned about Hae-jin. He scolds her for not wearing a safety vest because he fears someone will hurt her. Arriving at the office, Mango was interrogated. He explains that his drug is a new type that hasn't been distributed, and the person who made it is named Gong-jae. 5 years ago, Gong-jae almost killed Ji-woo, but he lost the fight until Moo-jin marked his face with his sword. After that, he left Moo-jin's group and produced a new type of drug that was not detected in any tests so that the user would not be caught, which made many people interested in buying it. Hae-jin, who knew this secretly, told Moo-jin. That night, Hae-jin finally gets access to the police database, and she uses the opportunity to see evidence of her father's murder. Unfortunately, the killer was wearing a full-face helmet, so it was difficult for her to investigate. She found out that Captain Cha was tasked with arresting a drug dealer on the day of her father's death. She still doesn't know whether it is her father or not. On the other hand, Moo-jin orders Tae-ju to investigate the identity of the producer of this new type of drug. After that, Moo-jin and his secretary, Kang Soo-hyun, negotiated with a yakuza who would buy drugs from him. The next day, Hae-jin and all the members were told that they would go on a mission right away to catch a drug dealer who had been a fugitive for a dozen years. Before leaving, all their cell phones were collected so there were no traitors during the mission. Not long after their target was announced, it turned out that they would arrest Choi Moo-jin, a drug dealer who has controlled 90% of distribution in South Korea. Hae-jin, who knew that, was nervous. She didn't know what to do. They then head to Moo-jin's secret lab inside a ship. The police have prepared this very carefully so that Moo-jin can't escape. Captain Cha watches from the ship through the camera Pil-do brings to strategize. After the preparations were complete, they went into action. Hae-jin, who saw Moo-jin's whereabouts, wanted to warn him, but she couldn't do anything because Pil-do always followed her. Suddenly someone attacks Pil-do, destroying his camera, but Pil-do can still finish him off. Pil-do, who now knows Moo-jin's whereabouts, descends to the laboratory floor and forces him to surrender. But suddenly, there was a power outage and a big fire on the ship. Therefore, their mission failed because the evidence had already been burned down. They don't get any footage of their time in the lab, and when they meet Moo-jin because their camera is broken. Suddenly Hae-jin screamed, and she found a gun that allegedly belonged to the shooter, when in fact, it was her father's killer gun that she kept. Then she wanted to see Captain Cha's reaction when he saw the gun. On the other hand, Moo-jin, who has returned to his headquarters, feels very angry because no one has informed him of the mission. Tae-ju asks why Hae-jin didn't tell them. Elsewhere, Hae-jin keeps contacting Moo-jin with a secret number, but he doesn't pick up because he knows it's a call from her. Meanwhile, at the police station, they interrogated people who were arrested while on the ship. But unfortunately, none of them dared to speak for fear of their lives being threatened. Captain Cha is suspicious of the shooting incident that escaped Moo-jin. He then checks all of his men's guns, and it turns out that not a single bullet is missing. After Captain Cha leaves, Hae-jin asks Pil-do why Captain Cha wants to catch Moo-jin so much. He then shows her the operation to catch Moo-jin. Moo-jin was their main target for these 11 years. He is the leader of the biggest gangster in the city of Incheon. Even all drug trafficking in South Korea is under his control. But unfortunately, Moo-jin is very good at hiding evidence, but he has not been caught. Unexpectedly, when Hae-jin saw the photo of her father, Pil-do explained that that person was Moo-jin's best friend who was killed 5 years ago. After that, Pil-do, Hae-jin, and friends hang out at a cafe while drinking soju. They talk about why Captain Cha is so obsessed with capturing Moo-jin. One of them says that Captain Cha's best friend has been killed by Moo-jin, so he wants revenge. But until now, they didn't know the identity of his best friend. Hae-jin then leaves for a while to try to contact Moo-jin again, and finally, he picks up the phone. She apologizes for not having time to tell him because the mission was so impromptu. She says that there are 3 hidden camera points at his hotel. Knowing that, Moo-jin was very surprised because there must be a traitor nearby. Meanwhile, Captain Cha is unpacking his old documents at his house, but strangely he keeps a photo of Hae-jin's father. Elsewhere, Moo-jin is dismantling all the police cameras in his hotel. At the same time, the police officers who knew about it reported it to Captain Cha. Hearing this, he is increasingly suspicious that there is a traitor in his team. On the other hand, Gong-jae is seen who is very drunk. He is very happy because he will soon carry out the mission he has arranged for 5 years. Not long after, Gong-jae and his men stormed Dong-jun's practice area and attacked everyone there. He manages to catch Tae-ju, but he doesn't kill him. Meanwhile, Captain Cha and his team received orders by telephone to head to the Dong-jun area. When they got there, they were already late. Tae-ju, who was seriously injured, didn't want to give any information at all. The situation in the area became very dire, and in the middle of the practice area, there was writing from the blood on back. Soon after, Pil-do reports to Captain Cha that at least 4 people were killed and dozens injured. Elsewhere, Moo-jin is furious to learn that his practice area has been raided. But Secretary Kong asks him not to be rash as the place is not legally related to him, and it would be dangerous to get caught. In the training area, the police were still looking for the attackers and finally found evidence of a new type of drug. They tried to comb the surroundings to look for witnesses, but no one dared to speak, including the victims. Pil-do suddenly tells Hae-jin that what happened there must be terrible, and he promises to protect her if they get caught in such a situation. The next day, the funeral of the victims was held. Hae-jin comes but wears a helmet, so she doesn't get caught. On the way home, she runs into Captain Cha and Pil-do. Unexpectedly, Captain Cha met Moo-jin at the funeral home, and they seem to hold a grudge against each other. Captain Cha says that he will end this as soon as possible. He is tired of seeing Moo-jin still not caught. Moo-jin laughs and tells Captain Cha that he will never be able to catch him. The next day, a drug unit member named Na Dai-soo finally manages to find the face of the person who attacked Dong-jun's training center, and the culprit is Gong-jae. Captain Cha, who saw him, explained that he used to be a member of Dong-jun, but 4 years ago, he was reported to have died in the training area. Captain Cha is sure that after this, Moo-jin will definitely move. He instructs that Mango be released as bait. Hae-jin protested at the risk of sacrificing many lives, but Captain Cha didn't care. Elsewhere, Moo-jin gets a message from Hae-jin telling Captain Cha's plan. Seeing this, he cancelled his mission. At the police station, Captain Cha and his team are confused as to why there has been no action from Dong-jun. Then, he laughs and says that Moo-jin will collapse by himself because someone has betrayed his organization. Moo-jin again gets a message from Hae-jin that there is a traitor who will meet Captain Cha. Meanwhile, Tae-ju, who got into his car, found a letter along with a new type of drug. In the letter is written an invitation to meet with the sender of the letter because that person knows Gong-jae's position. Without thinking, Tae-ju went there. On the other hand, Hae-jin goes upstairs wearing a full-face helmet to spy on them and observe Moo-jin's traitor more clearly. Unexpectedly, upon arrival at the top, she encounters Pil-do, who attacks her, and realizes that this is all just a trap from Captain Cha and Pil-do. Captain Cha wants to know who the traitor of his team is by revealing Tae-ju as his bait. He does that because he feels suspicious of Hae-jin because a lot of data has been leaked since her arrival. Meanwhile, Hae-jin, who felt pain, reported to Moo-jin that Tae-ju had just met Captain Cha. Then she asked him to be careful and not to act rashly. In the morning, Hae-jin gets information about who owns the gun used to kill her father. She rushes to the office to ask Captain Cha about it, carrying a knife for revenge. She asked who Jong-soo was, then Pil-do went in there, so she gave up her intention to attack him. Captain Cha replies that Jong-soo is his best friend who died after joining his unit and that the killer is Yoon Dong-hoon, who is her father. After that, Hae-jin goes to Moo-jin to ask if her father ever killed a policeman. He denies it and says that Captain Cha will do anything to frame them because Captain Cha is a cunning person. When Hae-jin returns to the office, Pil-do tries to get her to drink soju with him tonight. Unfortunately, she refuses his invitation. Hearing that, his friends in the room mocked him because they thought he liked her but was rejected. It turned out that Hae-jin rejected it because she was looking for Gong-jae, but Pil-do secretly followed her without realizing it. Unable to take it anymore, Pil-do got into Hae-jin's car. He asked why she acted alone to monitor Mango. He suspected that Hae-jin had other goals. She replied that she was annoyed that Mango was released, even though he had been proven to have a new type of drug. Finally, they followed his car until they arrived at the old abandoned factory. They both went straight inside. Soon enough, Gong-jae comes there to make a deal with Mango. But it turns out to be just a trap set by Gong-jae, who then attacks them. Elsewhere, Moo-jin, hanging out at the cafe, realized that the people around him were targeting him, but he attacked them first. On the other hand, Hae-jin and Pil-do are finally caught, and Gong-jae, who now knows who Hae-jin really is, laughs at her for joining the police. An annoyed Hae-jin challenges him to a fight with her. At the police station, Pil-do's partner reports to Captain Cha that he is unreachable. Then, they tracked his location. Fortunately, Moo-jin managed to defeat Gong-jae, but how shocked he was when he sent a photo of Hae-jin, which he would soon finish. Seeing that, without thinking, Moo-jin went straight to that place. It turns out that what Gong-jae said was not just a threat. He put Pil-do and Hae-jin into the car and lowered the giant iron press toward the car. Luckily, Moo-jin arrived on time and managed to save both of them. Suddenly the sound of a police car siren is heard, and Moo-jin, who hears it, runs away from there. Not long after, Captain Cha and his team came. He was suspicious of Moo-jin's car that was there. However, Pil-do and Hae-jin are found helpless. Elsewhere, Tae-ju meets Moo-jin. Tae-ju is very disappointed with his decision to act recklessly by going alone. Hearing that Moo-jin scolded Tae-ju, he compared it to Hae-jin's courage, who helped him while on the ship and endangered her disguise, while Tae-ju could only grumble. The next day, Pil-do forces Captain Cha to arrest Gong-jae, but Captain Cha replies that Gong-jae can be caught at any time because the one to suspect is Hae-jin. Unfortunately, Pil-do doesn't accept that. He believes that Hae-jin is a very trustworthy person. Then, he goes to her treatment room, and she looks unconscious. Pil-do had no idea that the woman who didn't want to leave and fought for him would actually be suspected. After that, Pil-do and his team moved quickly. They were looking for information about where Gong-jae was. At the same time, Dong-jun's gang is looking for Gong-jae's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Pil-do and his team finally catch one of Gong-jae's men and get information on where the other members are. On the other hand, Dong-jun's gang keeps looking for Gong-jae's whereabouts, but they can't find him either. Tae-ju then reports to Moo-jin that he hasn't been able to find Gong-jae yet. Hearing that Moo-jin becomes suspicious of Tae-ju, he thinks it could be Tae-ju has betrayed and hidden Gong-jae's whereabouts. That night, Hae-jin had not woken up from her stupor and had a bad dream. She saw her father, who kept away from her and didn't want to look back. Hae-jin, feeling frustrated, tried to scream until she suddenly woke up. Unexpectedly, Pil-do, who was beside her, calmed her down. He then tells why he became a cop. In the past, when his younger brother was celebrating graduation at a club, someone put drugs in his drink. But because his heart was weak, his younger brother died on the spot. Actually, he doesn't know who the culprit is, but he is determined to catch all the drug lords. After that, Pil-do invites Hae-jin to celebrate her recovery with her police friends. Hae-jin, who used to be very stiff, has become more intimate. Unbeknownst to them, Tae-ju secretly watches them and reports it to Moo-jin. Knowing this, he prepared Hae-jin's flight so that her disguise would not be exposed. At the police station, Captain Cha inspects the car that hit the crusher that night. From the inspection, he found something odd. He orders someone to track down all the phone calls from Hae-jin so far. At the same time, Moo-jin calls Hae-jin. He tells her to pack because he will send her overseas. But she refuses because she wants to complete her mission. In the morning, Hae-jin returns to work. She meets with her team that has managed to bring in several suspects from Gong-jae gangsters. Pil-do looks very happy. He says that soon they will catch Gong-jae. Suddenly, a man named Jo Jin-se, who is a police detective, greets Hae-jin. He is the one who chased his father 5 years ago. Seeing their closeness, Captain Cha guessed that the two of them already knew each other. Jin-se replied he knew Hae-jin when he was an agent for serious crimes. He knows who Hae-jin is trying to cover up the facts and gives her a business card to invite her to eat out. After that, Captain Cha asks Jin-se to have a chat together. He asks if he managed to find Dong-hoon's daughter, and he tells Dong-hoon's gun that disappeared suddenly appeared. Surprisingly, Jin-se admits that he doesn't know Dong-hoon's daughter. He says he wants to go home and is then approached by Hae-jin. She asks why he pretends not to recognize her. Hearing that, he smiles and says Captain Cha is her father's killer. Then he leaves from there. From a distance, Captain Cha observes the two of them. It turns out that Jin-se went to meet Moo-jin at the dock. He is Moo-jin's informant in the police force. He finds out that Moo-jin has smuggled Hae-jin into the police force. He threatens to reveal Hae-jin's disguise if Moo-jin doesn't want to give him more drugs. In the evening, Hae-jin comes to Mango. She threatens Mango, who has given information about her to Gong-jae. She gives him two choices. Mango will be arrested on charges of attempted murder, or he will tell Moo-jin if he is Gong-jae's subordinate who attacked his organization. Because of that, Mango finally gave her information about Gong-jae's whereabouts, and without thinking, she told Moo-jin about it. Unexpectedly, it turns out that Mango reports the incident to Gong-jae. Then Gong-jae calls Captain Cha because he knows that Captain Cha wants to catch Moo-jin. Then, Gong-jae offers that he will tell Moo-jin's whereabouts if he wants to let him go. Meanwhile, Moo-jin is preparing to go to the location given by Hae-jin, but Tae-ju suspects that it is a trap, especially since the information came from Hae-jin. Even so, Moo-jin still leaves because he trusts Hae-jin. He tells Tae-ju to stay there because someone has to take care of their gangsters if he dies. The day of the meeting arrived. Gong-jae, who was already at the location, tried to call Captain Cha, but he didn't pick up because he and his team were hiding to get ready to catch Gong-jae and Moo-jin at once. Not long after, Moo-jin and his members came. Without waiting long, the two biggest gangs in Korea took action to show who the real ruler was. After many gang members fall, Captain Cha gives instructions to catch all of them, especially Gong-jae and Moo-jin. Meanwhile, Gong-jae and Moo-jin are fighting, trying to kill each other. Seeing this, Hae-jin wanted to help Moo-jin by shooting Gong-jae, but she didn't shoot him after Gong-jae fell. Unexpectedly, Gong-jae took out his penknife from inside his shoe. He inserted it into Moo-jin's body continuously. Then, Hae-jin pointed her gun at Gong-jae, then told Moo-jin to run away. Instead of being afraid, Gong-jae was laughing at her. He thought she was stupid and ignorant. Seeing that, Hae-jin didn't know what was really going on. At the same time, Pil-do approached Hae-jin and Gong-jae. He told her to put her gun down. Knowing there are other policemen there, Gong-jae dismantles everything, but suddenly Hae-jin shoots him to death. On the other hand, while running away, Moo-jin meets Captain Cha, who is about to catch him, but soon Tae-ju comes to his aid with a car. Moo-jin is ushered into the tunnel. He temporarily hands over all his work to Tae-ju, while he disappears to treat his wounds. After walking quite a distance, he finally arrived at a temple. He got treatment from a monk. The next day, Hae-jin, who is killing people for the first time, is constantly haunted by Gong-jae. That night, Pil-do came to her house to give her food because he knew that Hae-jin was still traumatized. He advises her not to be alone when it first snows because it will be very cold. He tries to comfort her without discussing the previous tragedy at all, but Hae-jin, afraid of being found out that she already knows Gong-jae, decides to make up a story so that her disguise is not exposed. Hae-jin told Pil-do that in the past, she was almost raped by Gong-jae and given drugs while showing the scars on her hands. She said that was the reason she became a police officer. Pil-do, who heard this, felt very sorry for her and believed her without the slightest suspicion. On the other hand, Moo-jin finally realized that it was his old friend who had repented and become a Buddhist monk. He tells Moo-jin to rest a few more days at the temple until he is completely healthy. At the same time, Captain Cha gathers his team to hunt Moo-jin in all areas within the radius they have suspected. On the other hand, Hae-jin received a letter addressed in Ji-woo's name. When she opened the envelope, she was very surprised because there was no photo of her father in the police uniform with the name Song Jong-soo, the name of the gun owner. Instantly she remembers what Gong-jae said, that he thought Hae-jin was stupid. It turns out that the letter was indeed from the dead Gong-jae. Suddenly she gets a voice note from Moo-jin asking her to meet. When Hae-jin arrived at the temple where Moo-jin was, she asked if her father was a policeman while showing a photo of her father in a police uniform. Moo-jin explains that her father was sent by Captain Cha, but then he chose to join his gangster, and even her father saved his life. Since then, the two of them have become closer. He said that her father has several names to keep him safe. In the past, Moo-jin often saw Hae-jin's father secretly going somewhere while smiling happily and bringing a lot of food. From there, he found out that her father had a daughter, and now he decided to take care of the daughter. Moo-jin ends his story by saying that her father's killer is Captain Cha, and he doesn't accept it because his men betrayed him. Hae-jin is now even more confused about what really happened. Previously, she had been told by Captain Cha, who didn't know that she was Jong-soo's daughter, that the killer of her father was Moo-jin's subordinate. At a cafe, Pil-do is seen accompanying Captain Cha, drunk. After all, he feels stressed because he still failed to catch Moo-jin until now. Captain Cha is on the verge of giving up hope, but Pil-do keeps encouraging him. At the same time, Moo-jin calls Tae-ju to kill Captain Cha because he believes that Hae-jin can't complete her mission. Soon after, Pil-do takes Captain Cha, already very drunk, back to his apartment. After making sure that Captain Cha is safe, Pil-do leaves him. Without realizing it, a man entered Captain Cha's apartment and stabbed him repeatedly. Accidentally, Hae-jin, who was going to his apartment, bumped into the killer, but she didn't suspect him. However, she was shocked when she saw the doorknob covered in blood. Then, she rushed in. Suddenly, Captain Cha shoots Hae-jin because he thinks that Hae-jin is Moo-jin's messenger sent to kill him. But she instead revealed that she came to take revenge for her father's death. Hearing that, Captain Cha fell silent. With the last of his strength, Captain Cha, who was already critical, gave Hae-jin an envelope. He tells her to get out of there before other police come to arrest her. The confused Hae-jin obeyed his words, and sure enough, Pil-do returned to Captain Cha's apartment when she ran away. Arriving at the car, Hae-jin checked the file given to her. It turns out that her father used to be an undercover cop to catch Moo-jin. His disguise went very well, and he even became Moo-jin's close friend. On Moo-jin's birthday, his father presents him with a lighter. Moo-jin, who really likes his friend, never leaves his lighter, even when he beats Moo-jin while holding the match. But it turns out that there is a tapping device in the match. Soon after, Moo-jin finds pieces of paper in her father's typewriter. In that piece of paper, he finally realizes that Hae-jin's father is a police officer who makes reports about him every day, arguing that he likes to write fiction stories. He didn't expect a person who trusted him so much fooling him all this time. Hae-jin then opened the envelope her father had prepared in case he died. The letter contains an apology from her father for not being a good father. He apologizes for not being able to care for her until she grows up. He apologizes for not being able to share special moments with her anymore. Besides that, he wants to see who the man his daughter loves, see her get married, and have a cute grandson. But all of that will not happen. He hopes that his daughter can live well and happily. That's his only wish. Reading that, Hae-jin burst into tears. She didn't think she had been living in a lie all this time. Her whole body was suddenly very weak. At the hospital, it turns out that Captain Cha hasn't died yet. He received treatment from a doctor for surgery. On the other hand, Hae-jin decides to remove the tattoo on her chest because she already knows who she has to take revenge on. After that, she went to the hospital to see Captain Cha's condition. After knowing the truth, she felt very sorry for him. Arriving there, Hae-jin meets Pil-do. He believes that the attack on Captain Cha must be related to Moo-jin. Annoyed, Pil-do promises that he will soon catch the culprit who is Moo-jin. When he asked Hae-jin's condition, a doctor and nurse suddenly came out of the operating room. Fortunately, Captain Cha's operation went smoothly. On the other hand, Tae-ju tells Moo-jin that Captain Cha is safe. He says that Hae-jin is at the scene of the attack. Hearing that, Moo-jin ordered Tae-ju to finish off Captain Cha. It turned out that the perpetrator of the attack on Captain Cha was Tae-ju. Tae-ju is seen treating his badly injured hand, while Hae-jin is treating her hand grazed by Captain Cha's bullet. At the police station, Pil-do looks at various photos of the assault on Captain Cha. Suddenly, he remembers Hae-jin's incident when he shot Gong-jae. Pil-do begins to suspect Hae-jin, but she keeps disappearing from the thought. On the other hand, Moo-jin, who is still at the temple, gets information from his secretary that he has been involved in Gong-jae's death. She reminds him not to act rashly. Finally, he finds out the fact that Pil-do hid evidence that Hae-jin was the one who killed Gong-jae. While Hae-jin was about to leave the house, she was suddenly attacked by Tae-ju's men, who got a mission to kill her. Luckily, she managed to survive and finish off all of his men. Knowing this, Tae-ju entered her house. Before attacking, he explained that he always wanted to kill someone who betrayed Moo-jin. But all this time, Moo-jin has always finished off the traitors with his hands. Hearing that, Hae-jin attacked him. By using Tae-ju's injured hand, Hae-jin finally managed to beat him. In the last seconds, he said they were not much different and were both murderers. Hearing that, Hae-jin stabbed him to death. At the police station, all teams are busy searching and gathering evidence. Dae-soo gets a call from a doctor who used to treat injured people at Cheonhwang Temple. Without thinking, they went to the temple, but when they were about to leave, they were surprised by the arrival of Moo-jin, who suddenly surrendered. After that, Pil-do interrogates Moo-jin. He informs that Moo-jin's fingerprint is on the knife he used to stab Gong-jae, making Moo-jin the sole mastermind behind the attack on Captain Cha. But Moo-jin arrogantly says that soon he will get away with all charges. Knowing this, Hae-jin rushed to the police station and went straight to the interrogation room. There, she explains that she will throw him into prison using all the evidence they have. With feelings of anger and resentment, Hae-jin insists that this time Moo-jin will not be able to escape. Dae-soo, who was checking CCTV footage, saw one of the cars coming out of Captain Cha's house. They quickly got the number plate of the car. On the other hand, an officer is seen handing Pil-do a file, apparently a call history file for Hae-jin from Captain Cha. Previously, he had ordered one of the officers to give the file to Pil-do if something bad happened to him. Apparently, Hae-jin was asking for evidence of Gong-jae's attack from one of the officers on the grounds of the investigation that she took the knife used by Moo-jin. By bringing the knife, Hae-jin told Moo-jin that the evidence in the form of a knife had been secured. Meanwhile, Dae-soo and the other officers knew that the license plate was Hae-jin's. Dae-soo tells Pil-do about the license plate and the CCTV footage showing Hae-jin leaving the location of Captain Cha's house. After seeing the tape, Pil-do announced to arrest her, but it turned out that she had managed to escape with evidence of a knife. On the other hand, Moo-jin and his secretary leave the police station because, without evidence, Pil-do would never be able to keep him in jail. Apparently, Moo-jin purposely tests Hae-jin to find out if she is still loyal to him. At the police station, all the teams panicked. They checked Hae-jin's desk. They didn't think that she had attacked Captain Cha. Knowing that, Dae-soo looks very angry and blames Pil-do, but he stays silent while remembering all of her suspicious stories. After realizing that, Pil-do was furious and he blamed Moo-jin. Arriving at the headquarters, Moo-jin is informed that Tae-ju and his men have been killed by Hae-jin. Finally, Moo-jin finds out why she took him out of the police station, not because he is still loyal to her, but because he wants to finish him off with her own hands. Knowing that, Moo-jin forbids his men to look for Hae-jin because he knows that she will soon come to meet him. Elsewhere, Pil-do is seen checking the condition of Captain Cha's house. He finds the funeral receipt envelope for Hae-jin's father and mother. When he sees the location, his colleague suddenly calls and tells him to go to Hae-jin's house. Arriving at Hae-jin's house, Pil-do saw the house's condition, which was very messy and blood splattered everywhere. Looking at the cupboard, he doesn't find any photo album of Hae-jin's father. Knowing this, he headed for the burial site. Meanwhile, Hae-jin came to her mother's funeral and laid the ashes for her father. Before leaving, she promised to end it and take revenge. On the way, she accidentally met Pil-do, who chased after her. He asks Hae-jin to turn herself in and says he is very disappointed in her for lying to him. Pil-do manages to handcuff Hae-jin's hands and take her to the police station. All her colleagues were angry when they got there, including Dae-soo. They were very disappointed with her, who was considered like her own sister. At headquarters, Moo-jin finds out that Hae-jin has been caught, but instead of being happy, he orders his secretary to release her. It seems he wants to kill Hae-jin with his own hands. At the police station, Pil-do comes to the holding cell and suspects Hae-jin stabbed Captain Cha for fear of revealing her identity. Hae-jin, who didn't say anything, finally got up and said she didn't stab Captain Cha, though she wasn't sure Pil-do would believe her words. The next day, Secretary Kong goes to see Hae-jin and conveys Moo-jin's message to her to meet him as soon as she is free. Secretary Kong asks Pil-do to take her to the hospital because she needs treatment. At first, he doesn't agree, but Secretary Kong threatens to announce to the public that Dong-jun's gang has sent someone to spy on the police. Because of that, he finally agrees and takes her to the hospital. On the other hand, Moo-jin has told his men to get ready to pick up Hae-jin. Upon arrival at the hospital, Hae-jin was treated by a doctor and nurse. Apparently, the nurse was the woman she had saved when she overdosed at the club. Outside the room, Pil-do gets news that Captain Cha has woken up from his coma. He rushes to Captain Cha and tells him that Hae-jin was the one who tried to kill him. Hearing that, Captain Cha explained about a member of Dongju named Jong-soo who died 5 years ago. He explained that Hae-jin was Jong-soo's daughter. She joins Dong-jun to find out who killed her father, and finally, Pil-do finds out that she never stabbed Captain Cha. Before he leaves, Captain Cha orders him to help Hae-jin. On the other hand, Hae-jin released her handcuffs, and the female nurse gave her a car key and told her to get out of the side door. When she was about to leave, she suddenly got attacked, but she managed to beat them all and went straight to the car park. Suddenly, Pil-do came and tried to hold Hae-jin back. He told her that he already knew everything. He forbids her to go, but she still insists on getting her revenge. Unwittingly, Pil-do puts handcuffs on her hands until they finally get into an argument. Not long after, Moo-jin's men came to surround them and attack. Fortunately, they get into the car, step on the gas, and leave Moo-jin's men behind. The next day, Moo-jin, preparing for Tae-ju's death ceremony, is notified by his men if Hae-jin manages to escape. Meanwhile, Pil-do had brought Hae-jin to a house by the beach. After entering the house, he helped her to treat her wound. He advises her if a grudge can destroy someone, and hearing that, she cries and expresses all her feelings. Pil-do says that he will help Hae-jin to the end. He told her she could depend on him, so she didn't have to do everything alone. Elsewhere, Moo-jin is reminiscing about his past when he finds a gun on the typewriter that Hae-jin's father chose. At the same time, Tae-ju informs that Jong-soo is meeting his daughter because Moo-jin's emotions shoot him in front of his daughter's apartment door. In his daydreams, Secretary Kong suddenly comes in to see Moo-jin and tells him that his arrest warrant has been issued. When she suggests that Moo-jin should flee abroad, he suddenly throws a photo of himself and Jong-soo on the floor. Seeing this, Secretary Kong left his room. On the other hand, when Pil-do wakes up, he thinks that Hae-jin has run away and left him. But it turns out that she is on the beach enjoying the morning air. After that, they both rush to the Incheon police headquarters. When their car stopped at a red light, Hae-jin said that she would follow Pil-do's advice, as did Pil-do, who promised he would always accompany her under any circumstances. But their conversation suddenly stops when someone from the side of his car shoots Pil-do. With shaking hands, she took his gun and went to meet Moo-jin. Arriving at the headquarters, Hae-jin pointed a gun and ordered the guard to open the door, resulting in a fight between them and her. After successfully defeating all of Moo-jin's men, she finally meets her father's killer, Choi Moo-jin. With the last of her strength, Hae-jin pointed the gun at Moo-jin, asking why he had to kill her father. When she saw the photo of her father lying on the floor, she put it in her pocket. He says he really likes her, a woman who knows no fear. But without thinking, Hae-jin attacked him, and as a result, they were involved in a fierce battle. Apparently, Moo-jin is a tough opponent for her, and he managed to knock her out very easily. With a limp, Moo-jin approached Hae-jin and was about to kill her, but she managed to get up and stabbed him. Finally, she avenged her father's and Pil-do's deaths. After that, she left. At the end of the story, Hae-jin visits her parents' grave and puts a photo of herself with her father. Soon after, she visited Pil-do's grave. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that taking revenge only makes us lose more people we love. It's better to let it go and wait for karma to repay it.